everyone, welcome to part 2 of this colouring picture from Matchstick Mouse, a floral colouring book, as requested by Lee through my Ko-fi commissions. Now we are colouring in Polychromos pencils and we are going to get straight to colouring Matchstick Mouse herself. I'm going to start with her ears, tail, feet, hands, so the pinky, excuse me, the sort of pinky colours I tend to do them. So I'm going to start with this colour. This is dark flesh, otherwise known as salmon, and I'm going to do here, we're going to start here right away, the darkest part of the ear, and then just start to fade like that, and a little bit down here as well. I hope everyone's good today. It is actually the same day as I recorded the first part, so I haven't got any new news for you. Husband's still in his meeting. One son's in his room, he was quite tired. Other son's just making some progress in his computer game, so he's quite happy. So all is good. Do we put dark? I feel like putting a little darker bit here too. Just to there. There we go. Yeah, I'm a bit thirsty. That's exciting to share with you, isn't it? But husband's got a meeting in the kitchen, so I can't go and get a drink, and my water bottle is empty. Oh, I could go and drink some bathroom water, but not really up for that. I don't know about you, but I find my bathroom water tastes different. This is the medium flesh, which is known as coral. Now I actually find this to be quite a dark colour, so I'm not going to put too much on, but I'm just going to use it to sort of fade off the other one like this. And yeah, I always forget that ear. I've forgotten a nose, to put a little bit there like that. Just to extend what's on her fingers a bit and across the hand. We can't see her other hand, can we? Oh, got a, I think that's the clip from the frame, so it's just her finger. So yeah, Morgan O'Brien's wife does crafts. I think it's crochet. She's got an Instagram channel, and so I think some of his ideas come from her. So I think it's quite cute. And I don't know if she does embroidery though. But I don't now, but I used to. So I know a little bit about it, but I wouldn't say very much really. Now our lightest colour is the light flesh, which is known as beige red. And again, over everything, sort of trying to burnish, but also slightly change the colour, because this one I feel is a little bit of a different colour to the other, a bit less pinky, so it just tones them all in together a bit nicer. There we go. And the rest of the nose there and that bit, there she is. It's coming to life. No, not really, that would be a bit scary and strange. No. So I'm really just covering everything with this. It's just helping to bring it all together. Add our finishing touches to these little parts that we're doing. There we go. The idea is to try and make her tail look like it's catching the light on the top, so we've got the lightest colour at the top and slightly darker at the bottom. Hopefully that's coming across. I think that's worked quite well. Now I'm just checking that I've done all of those bits. I think I have. Now for her actual fur, what I tend to do is do a light colour first and then go over it with a darker one. Excuse me. Now what light colour am I going to use for her? I usually use the brown ochre, which we use for the tree. I think I could use this raw umber. Oh, clonk. So here is our raw umber. There we go. Now I'm quite excited today because, oh, let's do this ear, because I've just watched Johanna Basford's flip through of Wonderful Wildflowers, and she made 2 as far as I could tell. I watched one on Facebook, and then I had a notification saying there was one on YouTube, and the YouTube video was slightly different to the Facebook video. It was the other way up, for a start. So I think she'd recorded it twice. There were a few slightly different bits of information in each, so it's always good to watch both. You can pick up little tidbits on different things. I made some observations about it, but I'm interested to find out what everyone else thinks, so I'm not going to share my opinions quite yet. Now I'm going to start putting in some fur like this, and on the ear. Now this colour is obviously the same colour as I've just put down, but because I'm using a sharpened bit of pencil, I am going to resharpen it. You can see the strands. Where's my sharpener? I was looking all over the place. You can see the strands a little bit. It might be hard for you to see on camera, but they are there, believe me. And it just also adds a layer of colour to the areas where I want to make them a little bit darker and furrier. So the idea is that I'm going to make most of her have this sort of darker fur, but not on her belly or her face. That's how she's drawn, and this is how Morgan O'Brien tends to colour her. So I tend to copy that most of the time. I do, within a book, tend to not always colour her the same. It makes it more interesting for me. Sometimes I colour her grey rather than the sort of brown. And also if my background or other things going on in the picture, if there's a lot of brown, then a grey makes a bit more sense. There we go. Now we're going to do that again with the darker brown. What's this one? Is that the Van Dyck? Yeah, so the Van Dyck brown is what I'm going to use. So again, I'm going to start with this ear here. Really should go up, not down. That's how it would naturally sort of work. Like that. And it's quite nice, I think, to be able to see all the different colours. I think that makes it look more furry too, because fur has shadow under it and between it. So, and also fur isn't all the same colour. It's like hair. Not all of my hairs are the same colour. Some of them are very much whiter than others. But some have a sort of gingery streak to them, some are very dark, some are slightly lighter, and I suspect that is the same for most people, but it's often in fur as well. If you look closely, for example, if you've got a pet of some description, you might notice that it depends on their colour. Of course, some animals are pure black, cats and things, and all white, but if you've got like a, I don't know, a lot of animals do have mixed up coloured fur. I notice with some, with rabbits for example, they seem to have a mixture of grey and browns within the same coat. There we go. I think I'm quite happy with her. You could do more and more. You could go all the way to black, because we've obviously got some black here. The only thing is, on her face and body, it doesn't look very furry. So what I'm going to do is try something. Keep it a mystery. This is the Cold Grey 2. And I'm going to try just adding a few strips of lines of fur. I want these much shorter because I feel like this bit of her is just short fur around her eyes. I don't know why I think that, I just get that impression from the way she's drawn. Now, I don't these little strands aren't really showing up, but they are slightly changing the colour of these areas, which is good. It's not only is it's also slightly layering them up, making them slightly more intense as well, which I'm happy with. And then Morgan O'Brien always leaves this little bit as white, and her tooth is white. But I'm going to put a little bit of this grey on there, and then it looks a slightly different colour to the tooth, which really stands out. I like that. Yeah, I'm just checking it is coloured as a tooth. Now Worm here curled up. I often feel that Worm is the same colour as her tail, but I don't really want Worm to be exactly the same colour as her tail. So I'm going to use the cinnamon for Worm, but I'm going to use it really lightly first, and a little layer over all of Worm. And then think about where Worm might be a bit darker. For example, here there's some shadow. So Worm's going to be a bit darker. If we make the lower bits of Worm darker, Worm will look a little bit more rounded rather than just a little flat thing. There we go. Quite simple for Worm. Right, next we're going to do the grass. I feel that this here might be a bush rather than the grass, although it's going up to the tree trunk base. I'm going to grab a grass green, as I said, and actually I am just going to colour all of the grass in the grass green. I'm going to do a sort of up and downy movement like this, so that if you can see any streaky stripes, it makes perfect sense for it because of it being grass. And I'm going to do all of these bits. Now I can, of course, go over these with a darker colour if I feel they need it. So if I want to put in some shade and shadow, some sort of grass blades. I knew what I meant. You can do it in a darker colour, but I also want it to be dark enough so that if I don't want to add any more colour, it just works standalone, if you know what I mean. I think that might be a leaf, not entirely sure. So I'm going to just go around the bobbin, cotton reel, it's not a bobbin. Bobbins are on sewing machines, aren't they? Now I'm going to take the grass all the way up to here, even though that might be a bush, because as I said, I can change my mind later and go over the top of it if I feel it needs it, but I do feel that all of this is probably the grass. There we go. And it actually gets a huge amount coloured in quick succession when you do this. Now, this isn't it for my grass, but I'm going to colour in my flowers and my cotton reels next, so that when I do my darker grass, it might be going over the top of things a little bit. It will make more sense to do them to do them in this order. Now my flowers, in my last picture I did them all the same colour. I don't want to do that this time. I want to do a nice mix of different colours. So I'm going to start with a bright red. Oh, I'm just going to grab this one. This is that's an orange. Let's try again. This is the pale geranium lake. Let's do a red flower. This one up here on the tree trunk has got quite a bit of brown on it. So I think if I can put this really dark red on there, it will hide that entirely, which is good. I'm going to do all the flower middles the same colour actually. It's got a bright red. We'll go to a deep pink. I think we'll use this rose carmine. We'll do one over here though, away from the red. There we go, just blocking them in really, they're quite small. Now I'm going to grab this, which is the light red violet. I probably will want a yellow and an orange one. This is a nice colour. When you put it down quite hard, didn't realise it was such a nice colour. I've only had my Polychromos for 10 years. The purple violet, and I didn't notice what that colour looked like. It's a bit worrying really, isn't it? There we go. Now we'll go for this blue next, the Prussian blue. Okay, I'm going to grab an orange. I think the dark cadmium orange. I'm going to put it quite far away from the hat though. Put it over here. There we go. Now a different pink. I think the light magenta. Light magenta. Gosh, my husband is so loud. I can hear every word of his conversation. He's a floor lower than me, and I'm on the back of the house, and oh, he's on the back of the house, so I guess he's probably right underneath me, but really so loud. Here is the dark cadmium yellow. Here. Let's grab this really deep red. This is the middle cadmium red. I'm actually going to do the flower she's sewing in that. There we go. Where have we gone? Let's go to a middle purple pink for this one here. I'm going to do the middles, flower middles now, so that I can then gauge, whoops, what colours are sort of missing, because at the moment they look like they're missing yellow, but once they've got yellow, like cadmium yellow, it won't look like that. That's better. Now I can see that this side needs a blue. We'll do the light phthalo blue. Like that, and then over here, I think we could do with an orange. I'm going to use this one. This is the orange glaze. There we go. Right, we're going to do this little leaf here. We used lots of colours in these leaves, but I'm going to grab the permanent green olive, which was one of the more centre colours, if you know what I mean, because we used a darker and a lighter one. So I'm just going to use that. It's quite a small area. Then our 2 cotton reels. We need something with the actual wood. Now a beige would be perfect. It's not a colour we have. So I'm going to use the bistre, I think. I think it'll work. Trying to use it lightly, but it still looks quite brown. And then we need to colour in the actual cotton on the reels. This one I'm going to do in a yellowy colour, I think. This is the cadmium yellow. And this one here, I might do in a cobalt green. I realise she isn't sewing in these colours, but I think that's okay. What we haven't done is on her sewing, we haven't done the centre of the flower, which I'm just going to do in the light cadmium yellow. There we go. Now, grass. So now I'm going to grab the leaf green, which is a little bit darker, obviously, and we're going to start putting a bit of texture into our grass. We want some lines. I need to sharpen this a little bit more. Lots of sort of little grassy lines. It looks a bit hay-like, which I suppose makes sense. So just lines, just random lines everywhere that you can think of. Oops, I went out of the lines there. Now we've got a lot of blank paper on this particular picture because of the, I've just realised that that is her leg. How many of you already knew that? We'll deal with that in a minute, and I'm very sorry to those of you who coloured it wrongly with me. We'll find a way to sort it out. I don't know what I was saying now. I distracted myself entirely, but we're just putting all our lines on, apart from on top of the leg. Oh yeah, it's a lot of blank paper around the outside was what I was saying. So I'm going to gently erase all this bit. I thought it looked a bit weird. Now erasers aren't brilliant on for coloured pencils. I do have some stronger ones, but I think that's going to work. Raw umber. I'm confident Van Dyck brown that I can rescue it. There we go, it looks a little bit dark. And there is a tinge of green, but I think it's fine. There we go, you'd never know. Now, still not happy with the amount of detail on the grass. I'm grabbing my permanent green, and what I'm thinking about is where we have little tufty bits and stuff, we're going to put a bit more detail in there. So here's the permanent green. I'm going to start over here, and so this bit here looks like it's sort of slightly raised, so I'm just putting a few darker tufts around it, and same with that one, so that it looks a bit more three-dimensional, as if this is behind and then this bit's in front. I'm going to make it a bit darker where her tail is as well, just because it might be putting a shadow down, and then a bit here, look, above that tufty bit, and here. There, look, the tail would be shadowing it a little bit. I think this is supposed to be shadow from her feet. A bit above that tufty bit. And this one. There we go. And I'm hoping that, Yeah, I feel like it looks like there's some interest in there. You can see the tufts and different bits and pieces. Now her sewing frame. Now we have this sort of ring around, and my ring around my embroidery that I used to have was gold. So we're going to do a little bit of gold. So here's our burnt umber. I'm just going to do a bit here underneath. It's going to be darkest under there anyway. Try and a bit there and there. Try not to get it onto the canvas because I'm thinking that would probably be white. But do your best. That's all you can do. I'm just sharpening this pencil. It is the brown ochre. Oh, that's what we used for the tree, wasn't it? Brown ochre. That was funny. I looked up to my camera to see if you could see what I was holding up, and it decided that it put a square around my hand as if it thought it was a face. Green gold. Just extending those bits really, and then we're going to use a dark Naples ochre for the final bit. We are going to leave a little bit of white to look like it's got a little bit of shine, just a very small amount. Put that in ochre over the top. Hopefully that looks a bit like it's gold. The needle is going to be silver, isn't it? In colour, not in. So I'm using my cold grey 3. I think that's the 3, yeah. I'm beginning to struggle to see. And I'm going to leave a little bit white and the rest grey. Quite tricky, that's so small. Now, we have these things here. Now they remind me of a sort of fluffy plant that I've seen growing, which comes in yellow, orange and red. I've got no idea what it's called, but I'm going to try and replicate it with my pencils. I'm going to start with the dark cadmium yellow and colour them all. Don't press too hard. We want a really light layer. This is a base. We're going to be going over it. If you press too hard with yellow, it's very difficult to rescue it if you want to change the colour. Okay, now I'm going to make each of these a slightly different colour. This one here, I'm going to make this yellow, so I'm going to put lots of yellow lines on it. I want to sort of try and emphasise that fluffiness, like that. Now I'm going to do an orange one. Oop. I'm going to use the dark chrome yellow. I know I said orange, but this is quite close to orange. I'm going to sharpen it there, and hopefully it will look significantly darker than our other one. Like that. And then a darker orange. Is this the cadmium orange? Yeah. Do this one. I was going to do the last one red. It's going to be quite the jump from cadmium orange to red. Maybe I'll just use the dark cadmium orange. Yeah, if you did want to cover up some of this space around the outside, you could just swish around with a pastel or something. So here's our dark cadmium orange for this last one. Now the fluffy clouds, I'm wondering whether to try something or leave them. We could put a bit of grey in them, couldn't we? Just a tad. We'll go for a warm grey. We'll go for a warm grey 3. What we'll do is put a little bit at the bottom here and then just gently fade it up like that. And you can leave your clouds white if you prefer. but I'm just colouring it in so that I can show you something, if you know what I mean. Like that. And yeah, I'm definitely leaving the embroidery pad in white, but I am wondering whether what she stitched already should perhaps be green, as it looks like the flower stem and things like that. Now I think I've got a green pen. I do. I've got a green Moonlight pen, gel pen. So I'm going to go over the top of it in green to make it look. This is number 428. So I'm going to go over the bits that are stitched in this green pen. Now you don't have to do this, you can leave them in the black. Now it's no good trying to do this with a pencil, I don't think. I don't think there'll be any pencil that would easily cover that. There we go. So it looks a little bit green. I've just got a feeling that I'd quite like to make Spider have some glitter on him, but I don't know if that's such a good idea. So I think what I'm going to do is just put some white dots on my flowers. I'm not going to put it on the flower he's sewing, but I'm going to put it on these flowers here. So all just around the centre. And I know that because these are Polychromos, there will be no bleeding into the white pen, so I can confidently put it on all of them without worrying about that. I'm just going to scribble it though on my scrap paper. Sometimes they get a bit clogged. There we go. Now if you don't have a white pen, it's not really an alternative to this unless you use white paint on a very thin paintbrush. But I think most colourists these days probably do have a white pen. They're such a useful tool, aren't they? Right, I'm just seeing if there's anywhere else, but I think I'm going to make that do. I think that's enough little detailing for her. I think she's fine. Now you might want to make your little embroidery fabric a different colour to white. You might want to make it cream, for example, or any colour really. I think it looks rather nice in white. It actually draws your eye in to what she's doing, and I think it's a realistic colour really. You could draw some holes on it that, you know, sort of weave, but that would be very difficult fine work with, I would say, a really sharp pale grey pencil or graphite pencil and a ruler. And then when you get to this bit, how do you do it there? I think it's a little bit ambitious, so I'm certainly not going to have a go with that. It's all very well having an idea, but you have to execute it. So I think I am done. So thank you, Lee, for commissioning that one. I hope that you enjoyed it. Well, I hope that everybody did, of course. Yes, I hope that you have enjoyed the rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Please do like, subscribe and comment, and happy colouring.